Good morning. In today's headlines, a shutdown showdown. GOP hardliners are pushing for spending cuts in a budget to keep the government open. Why? Given it's likely dead on arrival in the Democrat-controlled Senate.
Government shutdown fears rippling through small businesses. Owners are worried about potential revenue hits. We have more on the latest survey by Goldman Sachs.
The stage is set for the second GOP presidential debate. Who's in, who's out? We have the lineup and a snapshot of some of the candidates.
House Republicans named the first 3 witnesses set to testify at this week's impeachment inquiry hearing of President Biden.
It's been nearly 2 months since the devastating Maui wildfires. Now some are returning to their destroyed homes for the first time.
Is AI becoming more biased? We speak to the founder of an AI company to find out how this could impact people's daily life.
What's arguably one of the most important academic subjects, you could say math, and that's precisely where American students' skills are dropping exponentially. A researcher who works to improve youth scholastics has a formula for success.
Good morning. Welcome to NTD. I'm Kevin Hogan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Evelyn Lee. Today is Tuesday, September 26th, and the deadline for the government shutdown is just days away.
Yeah, and not only could a government shutdown bring a lot of air travel disruptions, but also can bring reduced public health activities, and then obviously it could definitely have a big impact on American business owners. And we're going to have more on that with business host Don Ma later.
That's right, but first, the White House is directing blame onto Republicans as a new poll shows warning signs for President Biden's 2024 bid. NTD's Iris Dow has more from the White House.
As we inch closer to the Saturday deadline for Congress to fund the government, the White House has this message.
House Republicans' chaos continues to march us toward an extreme Republican shutdown. We're going to hold them accountable for the reckless cuts they are demanding.
And President Biden also calling out Republicans.
It's time for Republicans to start doing the job America elected them to do.
The finger pointing comes as some hardline Republicans are opposing spending plans on the table, saying the government spends way too much.
You can't keep spending $7 trillion when you're only taking in $5 trillion. That just doesn't work.
But the Republican House Speaker says lawmakers should avoid a government shutdown.
Why would they want to stop paying the troops or stop paying the border agents or the Coast Guard?
But as the White House is using this moment to accuse Republicans of playing political games, a new poll shows that if a government shutdown indeed happens, Americans would pin the blame more on Democrats than on Republicans. The White House defends itself.
I can't speak to your polling, but what I can speak is to the facts. This will be a Republican shutdown.
Meanwhile, former President Trump on Sunday called on Republicans to shut down the government unless they get everything. He added that whoever is the president will be blamed. And a showdown between Biden and Trump is coming up as both of them are heading to Michigan to talk to striking auto workers. Biden's getting there on Tuesday, and Trump will speak on Wednesday. Reporting from the White House, Iris Howe, NTD News.
The Republican National Committee announced the lineup for the second GOP debate late Monday. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on which candidates made the cut.
To qualify for the second debate, candidates needed at least 3% support in 2 national polls or 3% in 1 national poll, as well as 2 polls from 4 of the early voting states: Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. The White House hopefuls also needed at least 50,000 unique donors, with at least 200 of those coming from 20 states or territories. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, long seen as the top rival for Trump, will be on stage on Wednesday. DeSantis believes he is the candidate to take the battle to what he calls the radical left.
If you start getting in at the institutional level where the left sees that they're losing control, they fight back, and they fight back hard. And you just got to have the spine to stand there.
But Republican support for the governor nationally has slipped since its high point earlier this year. Some of that drop could be due to the surge by political newcomer Vivek Ramaswamy, who has tied DeSantis in some polls and closed the gap in others. The entrepreneur has displayed a willingness to go toe-to-toe on whatever the topic, appearing on a slew of media channels, including liberal ones. Ramaswamy's surgeon wife Apurva told ABC News that, as president, her husband will give her children the society they'll want when they enter high school.
One where their actions are rewarded based on their merit.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley also made the cut. In contrast to some of her fellow Republican rivals, she supports continued significant military aid to Ukraine, fearing a domino effect if Ukraine falls.
If Russia takes Ukraine, then Poland and the Baltics are next, and then we are in war because those are NATO countries.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott is looking for a breakout moment in Wednesday's debate. Scott is calling for a 15-week national limit on abortion.
Our objective should be stopping states like California, New York, and Illinois of literally having abortion on demand up until the day of birth. That is immoral.
Other candidates include former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former Vice President Mike Pence, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Burgum has been using his fortune to boost his donor total, giving away $20 Biden relief cards in exchange for $1 donations. A notable absent will be former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who didn't qualify this time around. He'll be in Michigan on Wednesday holding a press conference his campaign describes as calling out Donald Trump's false promises. As for the former president Donald Trump, he'll be meeting with union workers in Michigan and will give a speech shortly before his rivals take the stage in California. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Continuing with the Republican presidential primary race, there's been a bit of a shakeup among the candidates in a New Hampshire poll. According to a poll by the St. Anselm College Survey Center at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics, Nikki Haley is now polling in second place behind former President Trump. The survey says Trump has a support of 45% of likely Republican presidential primary voters, while Haley has 15%. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is in third place with 10% of support. The latest poll suggests DeSantis is no longer sitting in a comfortable second place in the GOP primary. His polling numbers dropped by 18% since March. Attorneys for former President Trump are pushing back on attempts to bar the GOP frontrunner from the 2024 ballot. That's regarding challenges based on a rarely used Civil War-era insurrection clause of the U.S. Constitution.
In a filing yesterday, Trump's lawyers argued that such challenges should be dismissed as a violation of his freedom of speech.
The challenges rest on Trump's attempts to dispute the 2020 election results and his role leading up to the Capitol breach on January 6th.
Another argument put forth by one of Trump's attorneys is that the 14th Amendment applies to someone who's engaged in insurrection or rebellion, not someone who allegedly instigated one.
The lawyers also say the challenge should be dismissed because Trump is not yet a candidate under Colorado election law, and they contend Colorado law isn't meant to settle constitutional disputes.
A hearing on the motion is set for October 13th, and a hearing on the constitutional issues is scheduled at the end of October. The issue is likely to reach the Supreme Court, whatever the ruling. And still to come, a panel of House committees investigating President Biden names the first 3 witnesses for its first impeachment inquiry hearing this week.
The illegal immigrant crisis in New York. Governor Kathy Hochul is calling in the National Guard. Find out why.
A lot of emotions, excitement, and sadness as some residents return home for the first time in the wake of the devastating Maui wildfires. That story coming up after the break.
Shen Yun Symphony Orchestra, coming to Lincoln Center, David Geffen Hall, October 22nd. Tickets at shenyunsymphony.com.
This is my country, Myanmar.
Shen Yun Jumbo Ramago, Moon Mangata, Moon Masada, Alabama, Sima, and one as one.
Nye Guamu, the Canio Seaside, Ye Gidu Moon, Ye Dumu, Young Sum te Caniare.
Support the dream dish not work by Shantian and Moo, the moon dream, repair you young way.
Anti-drug movement.
I went to Dr. Benatti and he went ahead and looked at my pictures. He told me, you have pain here, you have pain here. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd been to others, but he was a doctor that didn't want to fillet my back open like a fish and do like open spine surgery because everybody else wanted to do that and I was not having it. The anesthesiologist who was working with me, I was like having a conversation with this guy and then I was watching on the monitor as Dr. Benatti is fixing my back. I really felt like I was in good hands.
Benatti succeeds where others fail.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
Welcome back. We're going to bring you some more updates on the Biden impeachment inquiry in just a moment. But first, some House Republicans are reportedly pressing ahead with deep spending cuts to provide funding for the next fiscal year. These have little chance of becoming law and could result in a government shutdown in less than a week. Let's get some analysis on this. Hugh Fike, the Director of Government Relations for the Conservative Partnership Institute, joins us live. Good morning, Hugh.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
So why would GOP hardliners go for these deep spending cuts when they know it's dead on arrival in the Senate?
Well, I think an important process in this is actually doing the work to show the American people that we can cut spending and that they can go ahead and move forward with appropriations bills on a single bill basis. And so I think it's very important for them to do that, also to flex their muscle and show that the Senate is not just able to roll them on all the spending bills.
So why risk a government shutdown in order to get spending under control?
Well, I think it's important for the House conservatives to step up and move these forwards because, they've had a long period of time to debate these and they haven't really acted on them. And so, yeah, there's a very narrow window here, but this is what's going to take for conservatives to get on board and trust this leadership. There's so many times before that we've done all these stopgap measures that lead us right into December. And so this is fulfilling a promise to move individual spending bills and to do them at a lower number pre-COVID spending. So I think it's a little bit risky, but I also think it's worth the cost.
The House Freedom Caucus has made that a priority for some time. Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin told CNN, quote, "I don't know what to think." So what's the status of these negotiations right now?
Well, currently the House is scheduled to come back into session today. They'll debate and then hopefully pass a rule that says, we're going to consider these 4 appropriations bills, and then they'll take them up one by one with what people are expecting, over 400 amendments to all 4 of them, and then they will try to move those across the floor this week. And then in the Senate, they're openly talking about a CR that attaches some Ukraine spending. And I think that if you're talking about putting the shutdown, blame onto someone, Ukraine spending is basically a non-starter in the House. And so if you're attaching Ukraine spending to a funding bill, you're not really serious about getting a funding bill passed.
There have been criticisms of Washington as they put too many things into one bill or resolution. Where are these negotiations headed? I mean, McCarthy, he's responsible for piecing together the splintered GOP caucus, but are we going to expect him to be able to do that?
Yeah, it's a tough job, and I think that they are working together with all the kind of parties involved. But I think that the House Freedom Caucus and some of the conservatives are moving forward with trying to engage in negotiations with anybody that will work with them. So, yeah, short window, definitely, by the end of this week. But they've got Saturday, so I suspect that they'll be here then.
So if we get a continuing resolution to keep the government open, what does that mean? It's just a stopgap measure, and then we just keep the status quo?
Yeah, so a continuing resolution is basically an extension of current funding. And so depending on how long the CR is, whether that's 30 days, 45 days, or some period of time that's going to be agreed upon, that is just going to take current spending and stretch it forward, basically saying all these accounts will remain on the same level of spending, but they can add things. So they can add anomalies, which are like individual riders. They could add, certain spendings, like Ukraine or whatever else they decide to do. So yeah, they'll just basically, as stopgap measure means extension of current level funding.
Well, it's really good talking to you. Hugh Fike at the Conservative Partnership Institute. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
House Republicans' impeachment probe of President Biden is gaining momentum. The first hearing on the impeachment inquiry is set for Thursday, with the House Oversight Committee naming its first 3 witnesses yesterday. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg tells us more.
The House Oversight Committee says its hearing, the basis for an impeachment inquiry of President Biden, will explore constitutional and legal questions and present evidence of Biden's knowledge and role in his family's business dealings. The committee says it intends to subpoena the personal and business bank records of Hunter Biden and James Biden, the president's brother. House Oversight Chair James Comer said Monday lawmakers uncovered what he called an overwhelming amount of evidence that Biden abused his public office as vice president during the Obama administration for his family's financial gain, and that it was the duty of Congress to open an impeachment inquiry to provide the transparency and accountability Americans demand and deserve. Comer named the first 3 witnesses set to testify at the first impeachment inquiry hearing. The witnesses include Bruce Dubinsky, a forensic accountant and founder of Dubinsky Consulting, Eileen O'Connor, a former Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's Tax Division, and Professor Jonathan Turley, a legal scholar from George Washington University Law School. White House spokesperson Ian Sams accused Republicans of staging a political stunt and says it's an effort to distract from what he says is a chaotic inability to govern. Investigations leading up to the inquiry hearing were conducted by the House Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways and Means Committees. Sams said they have not requested any information from the White House. The House of Representatives can approve articles of impeachment by a simple majority vote, to be followed by an impeachment trial in the Senate. Biden's removal would require a 2/3 majority vote in the upper chamber, an unlikely outcome scenario under Democratic control. The president's first impeachment hearing is set to begin Thursday at the Rayburn House Office Building at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul has called in the National Guard to help illegal immigrants find work. She says this will turn a crisis into an opportunity.
And they've come here in search of one thing. That's the ability to work. Work leads them to a better life. And literally, people coming up to me at this statewide meeting of businesses saying, "Governor, can you send me some of the migrants? I need them to work." So we can do this.
Hochul says there are over 400,000 job openings in New York State right now, and fields ranging from farming and construction to restaurants and hotels. The governor has called in 150 additional National Guard members to help the illegal immigrants get work permits. This brings the total number of guardsmen focusing on this task to 250. New York City officials say the city has over 100,000 illegal immigrants. Mayor Eric Adams said earlier this month that the influx would destroy New York City.
Something to note here is that only the federal government can issue these work permits, and I know that New York has been pushing for them for some time. And we're going to switch up gears here and give you some of the latest headlines.
3M agreed to pay about $10 million in fines to settle violations of sales sanctions against Iran. A 3M subsidiary in Switzerland sold dozens of shipments to a German reseller under Iranian control. 3M said it stopped doing business with the German company and updated sanctions training.
A third person was charged yesterday in connection with the Bronx daycare fentanyl death of a 1-year-old. Police are hunting for another suspect. They released a video of a man arriving empty-handed at the facility, then quickly leaving with bags in his hands. Authorities think he was carrying fentanyl. He's the daycare owner's husband, but his name wasn't released.
The man convicted in the 2019 Walmart killing of 23 people has agreed to pay over $5 million to the families. Patrick Cruzius is currently serving 90 consecutive life sentences after pleading guilty to federal charges. It's unclear where the restitution money will come from.
The writer's strike may be over, but SAG-AFTRA members have approved a strike against video game companies. A strike vote doesn't mean there will be a strike, though. It's seen as a way to let companies know the union is serious. SAG-AFTRA is currently on strike against major Hollywood studios. We're going to go over to Hawaii now. A small group of Lahaina residents has returned to their devastated properties. This is their first trip back since the town was destroyed by wildfire nearly 7 weeks ago. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the challenging homecoming.
Emergency management official Daryl Oliveira says it'll probably be tougher for those who've lost family.
I think initially, people who haven't been in here since the fire are taken aback by the amount of and extent of the destruction. Talking to one property owner, he's like, Daryl, there's no wood. Nothing is here from our home. But I think overall, they came in prepared.
By mid-morning on Monday, about 16 vehicles carrying residents had entered the burned area. Oliveira says that some who returned searched for mementos in the rubble. Todd Taylor is with Samaritan's Purse, which is helping people sift through the fire ruins.
So they'll be taking shovelfuls of the ash and the areas that the homeowner would like to search and placing those ashes gently on a sift screen and then moving that ash, looking for those items, letting the ash fall back to the ground.
Lahaina resident Chuck Hogan hasn't seen a lot of his neighbors since coming back.
I've been the only one except for me and the Hawaiian people, and they've been awesome. They set everything up. They got the supplies coming in. All the local people just really stepped up to the plate. It was amazing.
Volunteer medic Nolani Ahia says people can get really emotional when seeing the aftermath for the first time.
So we're here to help you put your PPE on, make sure it's on correctly, let you know, that you have to take breaks and that you have to drink water and all these kind of things.
The August 8th wildfire killed at least 97 people and destroyed more than 2,000 buildings, most of them homes. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Really hope they can get some closure there.
Yeah, it's a good report, and it's nice to hear from the resident that the others are stepping up and helping them.
That's right, yeah.
Times in need. After the break, Ford is pausing construction of its multi-billion-dollar EV battery plant in Michigan. The United Auto Workers president responds.
And Governor Ron DeSantis just dropped 4 schools from the School Choice Scholarship Program. He says it's because they were controlled by the CCP. We speak to an expert on China's influence on our children's classrooms.
How are people using AI technology such as ChatGPT? And can it be unfairly biased? We speak to the founder of an AI company to find out more in just a minute.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore ShenYunCreations.com.
Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
1 in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, no full bellies. All around the world, parents are struggling to feed their children. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. COVID, conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we're fed up. Fed up with the fact that hunger robs children of their childhood. Fed up with the lack of progress. Fed up with the injustice. Help us brighten the lives of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients. Prevent children from dropping out of school. Support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give before December 31st can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Childhood without food is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org today.
It's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
Good to have you back. The U.S. dealt out a new round of sanctions against Chinese and Russian companies yesterday. That's over accusations of helping Russia evade U.S. export controls to make drones for its military. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the freshly blacklisted firms.
The Biden administration imposed new trade restrictions on 11 Chinese and 5 Russian companies on Monday, accusing some of supplying drone components for Russia's military. The Commerce Department added a total of 28 firms to a trade blacklist, making it harder for U.S. suppliers to ship them technology. The blacklist also includes companies in Pakistan, Finland, Oman, Germany, and the United Arab Emirates. 9 of the companies allegedly took part in a scheme to supply Russia with drone parts through a previously blacklisted Russian defense contractor called Special Technology Center. An investigation led by Reuters last year uncovered a logistical trail that spans the globe, ending at the Special Technology Center in St. Petersburg, Russia, at the Orlan drone production line. The investigation found China-based exporter Asia Pacific Lynx has been among the most important suppliers to Russia's drone program. The firm was the target of a previous round of U.S. sanctions in May, along with Russian import company SMT iLogic. Commerce Department Export Controls Chief Alan Estevez stated the U.S. will not hesitate to take swift and meaningful action against those who continue seeking to supply and support Putin's illegal and immoral war in Ukraine. The department alleges 6 of the Chinese regime entities added to the blacklist procured aerospace parts for Iran for its drone attacks on oil tankers in the Middle East. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo says her department has put more than 700 Chinese entities on the entity list, and that over a third of them were added under the Biden administration. The Commerce Department finalized rules to prevent funding from the $52 billion CHIPS and Science Act going to foreign countries like China and Russia or any entities of concern. It says it's meant to ensure companies receiving government funds do not undermine U.S. national security. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis suspended scholarship programs to 4 Florida private schools because they're controlled by Primavera Holdings, a Chinese investment firm. While it raises concerns about China's growing influence on American schools, there are also voices that think this may have only been an election stunt. For more on this, we want to bring in Adam Savitt. He is the director of the China Policy Initiative at the American First Policy Institute. Good morning, Adam. It's good to have you. Now, first, I want to get your take on this particular case. Was it just a stunt before election or no?
I don't think it was a stunt. And just as a brief backgrounder, I'm sure your audience has heard of the Confucius Institutes. Now, those were campus organizations, so at the university level. And those were supposedly Chinese language and cultural exchange programs. But what they essentially were means for the CCP to infiltrate that important campus environment. And they'd bring in speakers, professors, research partnerships that would infiltrate those institutions. Now, Confucius Classrooms was that phenomenon at the high school K through 12 level. Luckily, both of those have decreased greatly. Now, that was mostly not due to laws necessarily, but to grassroots opposition and good work of organizations like the National Association of Scholars who expose those organizations. Now, unfortunately, that has driven them underground, or not necessarily underground, but has at least diffused that influence into different companies, such as, or just different routes. One example being perhaps that holding company, which control these schools, and therefore laws are needed to ferret out any schools that are connected to any CCP entity, not necessarily the formal Confucius institutes or classrooms, but any country of concern is what this law actually says in its language, and China first and foremost amongst those.
Right, and on that note, there has been this report called Little Red Classrooms that found that China has also been funding public schools in this way with Confucius Institute. Is there anything that's, well, can you go in a little bit more detail what this report found and what is exactly being done about that?
Yeah, I mean, the key findings of that report are quite disturbing, and it is that, of course, the CCP knows what it's doing. They're targeting not just random community schools, they're specifically targeting influential science and technology schools specifically. In fact, the top 3 in the nation, one example being the Thomas Jefferson School in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C., which is recognized as one of the top schools in the nation. Also, they found that at least 20 of these districts were in close proximity to military bases. And of course, we saw with the spy balloon and also with the CCP acquiring agricultural and other land near military bases, that is a top target of their activities. And also it was identified that although the United States is not technically part of the Belt and Road Initiative, which is of course an economic and cultural phenomenon that China is building mostly through third world countries, we're not part of that, but this is part and parcel of that sort of influence operation. And they'll use any means they can, and one of those is our education system, educating our top minds.
Now, let's go back to this particular case with the private schools and Primavera Holdings. What are the concerns exactly with those private schools? What potentials do the CCP does the CCP have to infiltrate there, and what can they do there?
Well, the important aspect of that is that, as I'm saying, it's sort of when you close one door, they'll open up another one. So private schools would seem to be a more discreet way for them to bring in influence. Now, the great thing about this law, which I should say also addresses problems at the university level, but the high school or K through 12 level of this law is, as we saw, DeSantis designated these schools and took away the school choice funding. So in these states, when you have scholarships or this sort of school choice program, you can still use that state leverage over the private schools, even if they're not public schools with direct state budgets. And this is just closing another loophole or another way that the CCP can inject their influence. So we need to slowly or gradually and methodically remove those possibilities in all spheres.
I think that's very good insight. Thank you so much, Adam Savitt. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ford is halting construction of a $3.5 billion electric vehicle battery plant. It's the project in Michigan that has drawn criticism over its links to China.
In a statement on Monday, Ford said it's pausing construction of a $3.5 billion EV battery plant in Marshall, Michigan, until it is confident it can run the factory competitively. Ford didn't name any specific factors behind the decision, but said, "There are a number of considerations. We haven't made any final decision about the planned investment there." In February, Ford announced plans to build the plant. The automaker plans to employ about 2,500 workers to make lower-cost batteries for various new and existing vehicles. The factory was to start producing batteries in 2026, aiming to supply 400,000 vehicles per year. The project has faced criticism over its involvement with Chinese company Contemporary Amperex Technology, or CATL, the world's biggest EV battery maker. As part of a licensing agreement, CATL will provide the EV battery technology, some equipment, and workers, while a U.S.-based Ford subsidiary will own the factory and employ the workers. The halting of construction also comes amid an unprecedented strike by the United Auto Workers Union. In a statement posted on social media, the union president called Ford's decision to halt production a shameful, barely veiled threat to cut jobs.
And now let's head to Malcolm Hudson in the UK for some short headlines from around the world.
Good morning from the UK, Evelyn and Kevin. South Korea today hosted senior diplomats from China and Japan for a rare trilateral meeting. It's seen as aiming at assuaging Beijing's concerns over the two US allies tightening cooperation between themselves and Washington. They also discussed resuming three-way summits between the country's leaders, which were last held in 2019. At least 20 people are dead and nearly 300 others injured after an explosion at a gas station in the breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh. The explosion occurred as residents were lining up to get fuel for their cars in order to leave. Thousands of Nagorno-Karabakh residents are fleeing to Armenia since Azerbaijan's military retook the region. A prominent activist who advocates for a reform of Thailand's monarchy was jailed for 4 years on charges of royal defamation. Arnon Nampa has denied wrongdoing. Thailand's lèse-majesté law shields the palace from criticism and carries a maximum prison sentence of 15 years. The UN found Russian occupiers tortured Ukrainians so brutally that some of their victims died. An investigative body told the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva that torture by Russian armed forces in areas under their control has been widespread and systematic. Meanwhile, Russia is seeking to rejoin the Council after it was expelled last year over the Ukraine invasion. AI-generated images of naked teenage girls are raising concerns in a Spanish town. Families are denouncing that fake pictures of their daughters generated with an AI app were circulating on social media and chat rooms used by teenagers in Almendralejo. The local prosecutor's office said it will probe whether those images constituted a crime. That's all from me, and now back to you.
Thank you, Malcolm. And on the topic of AI, Meta is soon releasing AI chatbots with personalities, this in an effort to appeal to a younger user base.
The generative AI bots are being tested by employees. The company is expected to announce the first of its AI agents tomorrow.
Meta plans to develop dozens of these AI personality chatbots. It's also working on a product that would allow celebrities and creators to use their own AI chatbots.
The Wall Street Journal said one bot in the works is one called Bob the Robot, a self-described SAS Master General with superior intellect, sharp wit, and biting sarcasm, similar to a cartoon character from Futurama. And Meta isn't the first social media company trying to attract younger users with chatbots built on generative AI technology. Snap launched My AI back in February.
AI is starting to be more present in everyone's daily life, but some people have started to notice a bias when interacting with popular language models such as ChatGPT. I spoke with Phil Siegel, the founder of Captors, an AI company for simulation programming to address future threats, to dig deeper into the issue.
Just to be very clear on how these models work, the models are not biased in any way. They work the same way on any set of data. The things that can be manipulated are the data sets. So you can imagine if you built a version of a large language model and only put in content from Fox News, you would get very different outputs than if you did it only from an MSNBC, for example.
When you say it's the data sets that can be manipulated, is that the case here?
Yeah, so the other thing that that happens is people can be very clever with their prompts that make those the data sets come out. Think of the data as being the same thing as maybe a child that's been, that's 13 years old, that's heard, a number of different things. You can get that child after a long conversation to say things that the parents or the child would be embarrassed to say. It's the same thing with the chatbots. Very clever prompters, which are holding conversations that have figured out how the data might be biased, can bring those biases through. And so that's going to be a problem that probably plagues these models for a very, very long time.
Now, here's something that I keep hearing in different arguments. So that the humans that are creating these machineries, the humans are inherently biased, right? So in that case, how can humans create unbiased machines? Like you said, if it's the developers that are feeding in the data sets, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I guess you could say that they can't, that it is at the limit of what the human beings that are creating them have in their biases. But the vast majority of these models are going to be used in small applications. So a company that feeds in all of its customer data and asks a small language model or a large language model to help it market better to its customers. There's going to be biases based on what the customers have bought in the past, how they behave, and so forth. Those types of things you don't want to eliminate, right? As a company, you want to have better and sharper marketing. But for applications for the general public, you don't want to have these biases as much as possible. So over time, really the conscientiousness of the model builders or the data builders, I guess you'd say, and then what the use cases are, and then a little bit of regulation to make sure that these things don't impact our day-to-day lives in an unfair way are really going to be the way that we keep this from happening.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insights and also some thoughts on how to overcome this. Phil Siegel, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it as well.
Well, here it really sounded like AI can't, at least yet, can't replace humans and the way they think and, distinguish certain, because we can catch those things, right? The AI bots can't. So.
Yeah, AI just regenerates and regurgitates things that it picks up on. And it's so important for these AI models to be unbiased because so many people use them.
Exactly.
Yep. And we're going to go to break now. The government shutdown fears leave small businesses in limbo, and most owners are worried about revenue loss. We hear more from that from NTD Business host Don Ma.
And math scores among American students are at a 20-year low. What's behind the low performance and how can children gain an advantage? An education advocate offers an answer.
According to Marx, everything must be seen through the lens of oppressor and oppressed. Our property rights have continued to get weaker. The threat of these takings is no longer just for public use, but also for better use. This means that the government can force the exchange of property from one private citizen to another private citizen. This is nowhere near the Founding Fathers' intentions. We now have a record share of Americans that have never been married, I being one of them. In fact, the median age of a first marriage has never been higher. Now you may be thinking this is only affecting single adults. Well, not exactly. According to Pew Research, 1 in 4 parents living with their child are unmarried. And let's take a look at how many children are currently living with either one parent or no parent.
My employees and I are excited to announce it's our 20th anniversary, and to celebrate, we're bringing you a limited edition MyPillow. The Giza Elegance MyPillow is made with the most amazing cotton, 2-inch pipe gusset, comes in 4 custom loft levels, and it's machine washable and dryable.
When I got my pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. That's why we've been around for 20 years, because MyPillow works.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your limited edition 20th anniversary MyPillow queen size. Retails for $69.98, now only $19.98. That's right, only $19.98.
With my 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose.
Sleep well, America!
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back. The countdown continues for a possible government shutdown, and a new Goldman Sachs survey shows that small business owners are bracing for potential negative impacts that it could cause. Here to discuss is NTD business host Don Ma. Don, good morning. Good to see you. What are small businesses feeling right now?
Yeah, so Evelyn, first of all, overwhelmingly, that's more than 9 out of 10 American small businesses are saying that it's important for the federal government to avert a shutdown, according to the Goldman Sachs survey. And now the reason for this is because 70% of small business owners said their businesses would be negatively impacted by a shutdown. And of those small business owners, over 90% believe their revenue would actually take a hit as a result. And the Goldman report says that a government shutdown would slow the economy, undercut consumer demand, and disrupt access to government resources that potentially small businesses actually depend on. So Evelyn, let me just give you some numbers here as to why small businesses are so important, right? So according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, there's 33 million small businesses in America, which combined account for 99% of all the U.S. businesses. So, it's obvious why small businesses are critical for the U.S. economy.
Wow, yeah, and for many other reasons too. Now, how detrimental, would a shutdown be for small businesses? Because they typically have less of a cushion available in cash than large corporations.
Right, that's a very important point. So this is what I tell the other NTD shows as well. A shutdown is very different from a U.S. default. So during shutdowns, essential functions of the government will continue, and the economic impacts of a shutdown will largely be concentrated in areas that have a significant government presence. But individual businesses do rely on the non-essential functions as well of the government on a daily basis. That's from passports and permits to clinical trials and contractors. So let me just give you a real-world example here of what a shutdown did to a small business back in 2018. So Riverview Hotel, which is a small family-owned business, relied on a park service operated by ferry to transport guests to this island. And then this ferry service came to a halt during the government shutdown. And what that did to this business is it resulted in it having substantial income losses totaling tens of thousands of dollars, and it caused permanent employee layoffs. So for some small businesses, this could have a significant impact.
Right, potential rough times ahead. And talking about hotels, the winter holidays are fast approaching. So do you have any tips for saving, especially during these times?
Yeah, sure. So now is a great time to tackle expenses and make financial plans for the year. So here's some tips for saving. First one, plan ahead for shopping and spending as well. Decide in advance how much you need for this holiday season. And start putting money aside as soon as you can. And you can create Christmas or even holiday sinking funds. And another tip is audit your spending. So you should look carefully at your typical monthly spending. check out where you can cut back now to better manage the extra spending you'll want to do later. And another tip is, if you're planning to travel, book early and consider international destinations, because some overseas flights may be cheaper than domestic options. But that's all from me this morning.
Well, very practical advice, and I like how I can personally benefit from these interviews with you. So thank you so much. I should start preparing today. Don, host of NTD Business.
Yeah, my pleasure as always, Evelyn.
From business to academics, math. It's a foundation to American education, and kids are struggling with it. After the pandemic, students have gotten very low scores, and it's causing a lot of concern. I wanted to learn more about the specific cause and a way to improve math skills, so I spoke with a leader in an education advocacy group. Joining me now is Corey DeAngelis, Senior Fellow at the American Federation for Children. Corey, thank you for making the time today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
American students saw the lowest math scores last year than in 20 years. So how did we get here?
Yeah, look, the teachers' unions held children's education hostage to secure multiple multi-billion-dollar ransom payments from taxpayers. You had the AFT, the NEA, major large teachers' unions pushing to keep schools closed as long as possible so that they could say that they needed more money to open. And so they ended up getting tons of money in so-called COVID relief. But this had a lot of negative impacts on kids' learning academically in math and reading, but also emotionally and mentally as well, and socially.
And of course, we know that children weren't the highest risk group at this virus, but of course, it's understandable that teachers want to be safe. Now, what can we do to help kids get back on track?
Don't let them do it again. Don't let them close the schools again. We've already seen little pockets of some schools or districts closing or even trying to mask kids in some cases. Fool us once, it's shame on you. Fool us twice, shame on me. So parents, if you see more calls to close the schools because of a low-risk virus for children, push back harder than you did over the past few years. But also, in order to get back on track, try some out-of-school tutoring to catch up on math and reading. But then also, you could also try some online programs for tutoring as well. Also push for school choice. There have been 9 states that have enacted universal school choice policies. If your public school is not working for whatever reason, maybe they're not implementing the type of math curriculum you want, you can take your child's education funding to a private school that might be doing a better job, a charter school, or a home-based education option. So look for alternatives to the status quo system if it's not doing a good job.
And Corey, can you give us a breakdown here as to where students are doing better or worse in terms of which areas may have locked down, or whether it's private versus public schools?
Yeah, in Education Next, a Harvard professor actually pointed out that in states that had Republican control and in states that were open longer than the blue states, the learning loss wasn't as bad. So that gave us additional evidence to suggest that the school closures had a lot to do with it. You don't need a scientific study to understand this, though, because parents saw how the Zoom school wasn't really working all that well for them as implemented by the government school systems over the past few years. So it really depends on the individual parent and district that you live in, though. You might be in a blue state that has a great public school that you're assigned to. So it really depends on the individual situation. That's why it's so important for parents to pay attention to their kids' own education and to really see what's going on in the classroom, see if there's that connection with the teacher. And again, if not, think about homeschooling. Homeschooling has at least doubled, according to the Census Bureau, relative to pre-pandemic levels. And so that's worked for a lot of families as well.
A lot of great insight there. And you know, children, they're social people. They like to be outside and having fun, so it's hard enough for them to concentrate in the classroom all the time with all that fun stuff waiting for them, and it can be even harder when they're just at home staring at a computer screen. So I see what you mean there. Corey DeAngelis at the American Federation for Children, I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Still to come, a recent discovery in Zambia of the oldest wooden structure in the world, possibly made by a species different from us. Get that story in just a minute.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepic.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Did you know African elephants could become extinct in our lifetime? In fact, more than 90% are already gone. If we don't act now, they will disappear forever. But we can't do it alone, because when it comes to saving elephants, it's you plus IFAW, the International Fund for Animal Welfare. You plus IFAW together can help stop poaching, protect habitats, and save thousands of elephants. Call or go online right now to join IFAW.org and give $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. You can save elephants and the places they call home. Together, we can fund rangers to stop poachers in their tracks, protect the land elephants need to roam and survive, and provide loving care for those who have been orphaned so they can one day be released back into the wild. But the only way we can do this life-saving work is with you plus IFAW. So call or go online with your gift right now. With the monthly support of people just like you, elephants like Moses are alive and thriving today. It takes years of hard work from dedicated teams so orphaned elephants can learn the skills they need to survive in the wild. So please, call now or go online with your monthly gift. You can help provide the urgent care elephants need so this generation won't be the last. And when you use your credit card, you'll get this exclusive membership kit, including your very own IFAW t-shirt to show it's you plus IFAW standing together to help rescue and care for these majestic creatures. The danger for elephants is more urgent than ever before. That's why we need you. It's going to take all of us to help save elephants before they disappear forever. So please, call right away or go to joinifaw.org with your monthly gift, because together, you plus IFAW can save lives.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha 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 ha.
See, Smokey thinks I'm funny.
Welcome back. A stunning find in Zambia may cause us to rethink our theories of prehistory.
Researchers uncovered the oldest evidence yet of early humans building with wood, possibly made by a human species different from us.
Researchers in Zambia have uncovered the oldest wooden structure built by humans, nearly 500,000 years old.
It's what I call a disruptive discovery. I never expected it. And it took me a while before I appreciated what we were looking at. It didn't look very nice, to be honest. But it is much more complex than I thought. And it suggests to me that early humans, early hominins before us were actually capable of doing things which we would marvel at if we were doing it ourselves. So it's not just the stone tools. It's the wood as well. They've got this repertoire of materials now. They can transform their environment. They can build things that are lasting. That's new.
The simple structure is made with notches cut into it to keep the pieces locked together. This model gives you an idea of how it works.
Locking something in, so it restricts the movement, and that's intentional. And nothing has been seen like that in the archaeological record at this time. And really won't be seen again until maybe 9,000 years ago. So a huge gap in time between what these people could do 477,000 years ago. And then when we see that again in the archaeological record, in this case in the European record. So that's how I understand this. So this is a framework on which things could then be added, like a platform.
The age of the discovery was determined by using a new dating method. It's an important development in the field of archaeology.
What I've been involved in is a method called luminescence dating, and this enables us to fill in this gap that other dating techniques really can't touch. And in particular, what's useful about it is that we can apply it to the sands that the river deposits themselves. So we don't have to find special materials. We don't have to find tephra or anything particularly. It's just common minerals that occur in these sediments, and we can date those to give an age range.
The discovery is changing ideas about what hominins were capable of doing with tools. Archaeologists previously thought these people were hunter-gatherers who moved around constantly. This simple structure proves they also had places where they settled down.
And so people might have either stayed longer at this site than we expected, or they might have been at the site very, very frequently, so repeatedly. And this sort of changes, at least for this time and space, our perspective on hunter-gatherer groups 500,000 years ago in South and Central Africa.
So exciting, but it really humbles you to always see how little we actually know as humans about this world.
I'm so glad they're uncovering this. 500,000 years, that's really old.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
All right, and we just hit 8 a.m. and it's the second part of our broadcast that starts now. Senator Menendez is not stepping down, at least for now. The New Jersey lawmaker is defiant toward the federal bribery charges against him.
The GOP presidential debate stage is shrinking. The RNC says only 7 candidates will take the stage tomorrow night. Find out who made the cut.
Why are some GOP House members pushing for a budget that's likely dead on arrival in the Senate? We get some answers from a government relations director.
Ford announces a halt of its multi-billion-dollar EV battery plant in Michigan. Find out why Ford pulled the plug.
It's rare, expensive, tasty, and located by special dogs. We have more on the prized delicacy being harvested in the woods of France. Stay with us.
Hello again, and to all of you who just joined us, good morning. We're going to get right into our top news.
That's right. The Republican National Committee announced the lineup for the second GOP debate late yesterday. NTD's Daniel Monahan tells us which candidates made the cut.
To qualify for the second debate, candidates needed at least 3% support in 2 national polls or 3% in 1 national poll, as well as 2 polls from 4 of the early voting states: Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, long seen as the top rival for Trump, will be on stage on Wednesday. DeSantis believes he is the candidate to take the battle to what he calls the radical left.
If you start getting in at the institutional level where the left sees that they're losing control, they fight back, and they fight back hard. And you just got to have the spine to stand there.
But Republican support for the governor nationally has slipped since its high point earlier this year. Some of that drop could be due to the surge by political newcomer Vivek Ramaswamy, who has tied DeSantis in some polls and closed the gap in others. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley also made the cut. In contrast to some of her fellow Republican rivals, she supports continued significant military aid to Ukraine. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott is looking for a breakout moment in Wednesday's debate. Scott is calling for a 15-week national limit on abortion.
Our objective should be stopping states like California, New York, and Illinois of literally having abortion on demand up until the day of birth. That is immoral.
Other candidates include former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, former Vice President Mike Pence, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. A notable absent will be former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who didn't qualify this time around. As for the former President Donald Trump, he'll be meeting with union workers in Michigan and will give a speech shortly before his rivals take the stage in California. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Not stepping down. New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez says the bribery charges against him are false, even going as far as indicating a possible rerun.
The allegations leveled against me are just that, allegations. I firmly believe that when all the facts are presented, not only will I be exonerated, but I still will be the New Jersey's senior senator.
Democratic New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez on Monday denying allegations of bribery. Menendez hired Abe Lowell to defend him at the trial. That's the same attorney who is defending Hunter Biden in his gun charges case. His trial is set to start on Wednesday. And Senator Menendez says the hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in his home was withdrawn for emergencies and because of the history of his family facing confiscation in Cuba. Let's delve into some accounting on this. Paul Kamenar, the lead counsel at the National Legal and Policy Center, joins us live. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Does Senator Menendez's story that he withdrew the money he lawfully earned from his savings accounts add up?
No, it doesn't add up. I mean, I think he's insulting everyone's intelligence to say that he saved $480,000 over his career in Congress and the Senate for a rainy day, emergencies, he says. I mean, I looked at his financial disclosure forms over the last 10 years or so, and in fact, his deposits of accounts in his Senate credit union went up in the $100,000 to $250,000 range. So how's he withdrawing money from his savings account if in fact the amount of money in his savings account is going up? And moreover, the indictment says they have fingerprints and DNA evidence of one of the defendants on some of these envelopes with all this cash that was stuffed into his jackets and clothes. I mean, come on, we're not idiots here. So that's not, and it's easy to check his bank records. The prosecutors, I'm sure by now, have looked at his withdrawals over the years at his bank records to see if he took that money out. So that doesn't make any sense.
Thanks for bringing those to light. Can you walk us through what's expected at his trial that starts tomorrow?
Well, his trial is not going to start tomorrow. He hasn't been officially arraigned yet, which will be the next couple of days. So that will be the first step in the proceedings. I don't expect his trial to start until sometime next year because there's going to be all kinds of pretrial motions and discovery and so forth. So this will go well into next year during the campaign season. And as we know, Menendez says he's not stepping down. He's going to run again for Senate in New Jersey. So we'll see what happens there.
Right. Yeah, he announced that possible rerun. Have we seen any convictions in recent cases like this that involve corruption allegations like the ones Menendez faces over aid to Egypt?
Well, there's been several, of course, in terms of bribery and corruption of members of Congress. One that was some years ago was a representative from Louisiana. They found like $90,000 in his refrigerator, and he was indicted on corrupt bribery charges for influencing policy in a country in Africa.
Looks like the signal is a little choppy there, Paul. We'll have to get back to you at some other time.
After proceedings, but he did a good 5 years in jail. So if he's convicted here, he's going to spend at least 5 years in prison, as well as his wife, who is the co-conspirator here.
Right, yeah, very concerning allegations. Well, Paul Kamenar, lead counsel at the National Legal and Policy Center, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
The deadline for a government shutdown is days away. The White House is directing blame onto Republicans as a new poll shows warning signs for President Biden's 2024 bid. NTD's Iris Tao has more from the White House.
As we inch closer to the Saturday deadline for Congress to fund the government, the White House has this message.
House Republicans' chaos continues to march us toward an extreme Republican shutdown. We're going to hold them accountable for the reckless cuts They are demanding.
And President Biden also calling out Republicans.
It's time for Republicans to start doing the job America elected them to do.
The finger pointing comes as some hardline Republicans are opposing spending plans on the table, saying the government spends way too much.
You can't keep spending $7 trillion when you're only taking in $5 trillion. That just doesn't work.
But the Republican House Speaker says lawmakers should avoid a government shutdown.
Why would they want to stop paying the troops or stop paying the border agents or the Coast Guard?
But as the White House is using this moment to accuse Republicans of playing political games, a new poll shows that if a government shutdown indeed happens, Americans would pin the blame more on Democrats than on Republicans. The White House defends itself.
I can't speak to your polling, but what I can speak is to the facts. This will be a Republican shutdown.
Meanwhile, former President Trump on Sunday called on Republicans to shut down the government unless they get everything. He added that whoever is the president will be blamed. And a showdown between Biden and Trump is coming up as both of them are heading to Michigan to talk to striking auto workers. Biden's getting there on Tuesday, and Trump will speak on Wednesday. Reporting from the White House, Iris Howe, NTD News.
Some House Republicans are reportedly pressing ahead with deep spending cuts to provide funding for the next fiscal year. These have little chance of becoming law and could result in a government shutdown in less than a week. I spoke with Hugh Fike, the director at Conservative Partnership Institute, to find out more. So why would GOP hardliners go for these deep spending cuts when they know it's dead on arrival in the Senate?
Well, I think an important process in this is actually doing the work to show the American people that we can cut spending and that they can go ahead and move forward with appropriations bills on a single bill basis. And so I think it's very important for them to do that, also to flex their muscle and show that the Senate is not just able to roll them on all the spending bills.
So why risk a government shutdown in order to get spending under control?
Well, I think it's important for the House conservatives to step up and move these forwards because they've had a long period of time to debate these and they haven't really acted on them. And so, yeah, there's a very narrow window here, but this is what's going to take for conservatives to get on board and trust this leadership. There's so many times before that we've done all these stopgap measures that lead us right into December. And so this is fulfilling a promise to move individual spending bills and to do them at a lower number pre-COVID spending. So I think it's a little bit risky, but I also think it's worth the cost.
There have been criticisms of Washington as they put too many things into one bill or resolution. Where are these negotiations headed? I mean, McCarthy, he's responsible for piecing together the splintered GOP caucus, but are we going to expect him to be able to do that?
Yeah, it's a tough job, and I think that they are working together with all the kind of parties involved. But I think that the House Freedom Caucus and some of the conservatives are moving forward with trying to engage in negotiations with anybody that will work with them. So, yeah, short window, definitely, by the end of this week. But they've got Saturday, so I suspect that they'll be here then.
Well, it's really good talking to you. Hugh Fike at the Conservative Partnership Institute. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up after the break, a new ChatGPT feature soon to be released will allow you to have conversations with the chatbot and more.
And it's the gourmet treat that costs as much as gold. We dig into the mysterious world of truffles when we come back.
Shen Yun Symphony Orchestra, coming to Lincoln Center, David Geffen Hall, October 22nd. Tickets at shenyunsymphony.com.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard. But that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
I went to Dr. Benatti and he went ahead and looked at my pictures. He told me, you have pain here, you have pain here. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd been to others, but he was a doctor that didn't want to fillet my back open like a fish and do like open spine surgery because everybody else wanted to do that and I was not having it. The anesthesiologist who was working with me, I was like having a conversation with this guy and then I was watching on the monitor as Dr. Benatti is fixing my back. I really felt like I was in good hands.
Visit AskBenatti.com.
Welcome back. President Biden is practicing charm diplomacy with leaders of 18 Pacific Island nations.
He's hoping to curb the expanding influence of China into a region Washington considers strategically crucial.
Before hosting the 18-nation summit, President Biden announced U.S. diplomatic recognition of the Cook Islands and Niue.
Biden pledged to help provide $200 million more in funding for projects like slowing climate change, helping economic growth in the region, fighting illegal fishing, and improving public health.
A joint statement between parties agreed to have another summit in 2025 and political engagements every 2 years thereafter.
Ford is halting construction of a $3.5 billion electric vehicle battery plant. It's the project in Michigan that has drawn criticism over its links to China.
In a statement on Monday, Ford said it's pausing construction of a $3.5 billion EV battery plant in Marshall, Michigan, until it is confident it can run the factory competitively. Ford didn't name any specific factors behind the decision, but said, "There are a number of considerations. We haven't made any final decision about the planned investment there." In February, Ford announced plans to build the plant. The automaker plans to employ about 2,500 workers to make lower-cost batteries for various new and existing vehicles. The factory was to start producing batteries in 2026, aiming to supply 400,000 vehicles per year. The project has faced criticism over its involvement with Chinese company Contemporary Amperex Technology, or CATL, the world's biggest EV battery maker. As part of a licensing agreement, CATL will provide the EV battery technology, some equipment, and workers, while a U.S.-based Ford subsidiary will own the factory and employ the workers. The halting of construction also comes amid an unprecedented strike by the United Auto Workers Union. In a statement posted on social media, the union president called Ford's decision to halt production a shameful, barely veiled threat to cut jobs.
ChatGPT is unveiling a new feature that will really have people talking.
The app will soon allow users to hold conversations with the AI program.
It will do things like answer your questions or tell your child a bedtime story. The new feature brings the chatbot in line with similar products like Amazon's Alexa or Apple's Siri.
ChatGPT plans on releasing the big update in the next 2 weeks.
And on a different topic, David Mccallum, known for his role in the TV drama NCIS, has died at the age of 90.
His representative said he passed away yesterday of natural causes in a New York hospital.
Well, he's known as Chief Medical Examiner Ducky Mallard. Appearing in over 400 episodes of NCIS, he's also famous for other roles.
He was the co-star of the TV spy hit The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He also had roles in high-profile movies like The Greatest Story Ever Told, A Night to Remember, and The Great Escape. Heart disease is one of the leading causes of death in America.
Yes, that's right. And a combination of bad habits and poor lifestyle choices can be a major contributor to heart problems. I spoke with a health reporter to find out how you can reduce your risk for heart disease. Joining me now is Emma Setti. She is an acupuncture physician and health reporter for the Epoch Times. It's great to have you, Emma. Now, first, can you tell us more about the habits that put people at increased risk of a heart disease, and also maybe which ones we're actually talking about here?
Sure. Habits that put people at increased risk are smoking, eating an unhealthy diet, not being physically active, not getting enough sleep, and stress, especially chronic stress.
Oh, wow. So these are some very specific things to pay attention to. That's great. Now, if that's the case, what exactly what happens to the heart in that situation?
Well, heart disease is a variety of different conditions that affect the heart, but coronary artery disease is actually the most common type of heart disease in the United States. And what happens with coronary artery disease is that plaque, which is made up of fats and cholesterol and different things in the blood, builds up in the arteries that supply the blood to the heart. And over time, that buildup can restrict the blood flow to the heart and can lead to a heart attack. And a heart attack is when the part of the heart muscle isn't getting enough blood and oxygen.
Now, tell me more about the 4 natural blood thinners that you mentioned and how they come into play in all of this.
Okay, thankfully there are quite a few different foods and herbs that can thin the blood naturally. I chose 4, which are garlic, ginkgo biloba, natto, and cayenne pepper. So garlic is an antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory. It reduces the risk of cancer. And ginkgo biloba, ginkgo has been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years, but today it's a popular supplement and is mostly used for blood disorders, problems with circulation, and issues with memory. And it's also a pretty potent blood thinner. Natto is a traditional Japanese food that's made of fermented soybeans that's actually been part of the Japanese diet for hundreds of years. But natto contains a unique enzyme called nattokinase, which is has powerful blood thinning capabilities, which makes it excellent for lowering blood pressure, for benefiting the circulation, and for protecting against heart disease and stroke. And cayenne peppers contain salicylates, which are a natural compound that has blood thinning capabilities. And cayenne has a ton of health benefits, which include helping with weight loss, boosting the immune system, relieving pain, and protecting the heart.
Thank you so much, Emma Setti. I appreciate your insights today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And talking about eating habits, do you like eating truffles? And they're really good, but they're just a rare, expensive treat.
They do have a strong flavor. And did you know a truffle is a kind of fungus that grows underground by attaching itself to tree roots? They're also harvested in a totally unique way. Let's delve into the mysterious world of truffles.
Truffles are one of the most unique foods known to man. They fetch astronomical prices due to their rarity. They only grow in certain parts of the world. The Burgundy region of France is one of those places. The home of the famous wine is also a top spot for truffle hunting. Burgundy truffles sell for about $450 per pound, and they're not easy to find.
When I decide to make this business with truffle, say, okay, I need to have myself my dog, and we went to the forest to search truffle with a truffle dog. Okay, and dog show me where are the truffle. It's like this. You don't know really where are the truffle because truffle are under the ground. If there is truffle, dog will show you where they are.
Truffles are highly prized for their aroma and earthy flavors. Food lovers from around the world visit Burgundy for their special type of truffle.
We love truffles. We try to add it to our daily ratio as much as we can. So we were just interested how it's harvested and all the process about it. We just like to know more about the things we love.
Although people love the flavor and aroma, its price can put a damper on regular consumption.
I do like truffle, but I do not eat very often because the price. So usually it's when I go to a high posh restaurant with a sauce, truffle sauce or something like that. But otherwise, you heard the price.
There will be almost no truffles harvested if it weren't for the specially trained dogs. Man's best friend indeed.
But there is a special breed. The name of this breed is Lagotto Romagnolo, and I decided to have this breed because it's a really gently breed, and we were happy to work together because it's a really friendship with a dog.
Delicious. It looks delicious.
Well, yeah, at the price tag, those Burgundy black truffles can go for $900 a pound.
Right. Well, that's all for today. We'd love to hear from you at goodmorning@ntd.com as usual. If you have any feedback, write us. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selected videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.